So now we're moving on to our next brilliant presenter. It's Hannah Monds, and she's going to be talking about more than flogging lipstick, 5 game-changing influencer marketing trends for 2021. Again, influencer marketing couldn't be hotter. So let's hear what Hannah has to say. Hannah, over to you.
Hello. Well, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. So I don't think I'm going to take up the full 5 minutes, but I'm definitely going to give you my 5 cents worth. So first of all, I just want to talk about, the industry having matured tremendously. So we've seen 10 years of real solid growth within the influence marketing industry with no real signs of it slowing down. And it's no longer kind of this mysterious kind of industry either. It's now being adopted as a primary marketing strategy for many, many brands. And this widespread acceptance and adoption really has allowed brands to really see what content creators can bring to the game and what value they bring. So my second point is about rising confidence in the market as well. So, this rising confidence is really reflected in spending habits as well. So a recent white paper by Takumi indicated that actually 73% of brands were looking to increase their spend in influencer marketing despite the pandemic. So that's huge, and a real good indication that brands are more confident than ever that influencers can really deliver ROI for them. And it's not only, of course, the spending habits of brands that really matter. It's the spending habits of consumers as well. So a Brightroll survey recently reported actually that 91% of millennials trust online reviews as much as they would trust recommendations from friends and family as well. So that's super interesting. Now, my third point is that even B2B companies are really seeing success with influencer marketing. So there's a common misconception, I think, that it's only kind of fashion and beauty brands that can benefit from influencer marketing. This just really isn't the case. So, more companies than ever are really seeing success with influencer marketing. And by engaging in strategic online partnerships with really respected thought leaders in their fields, B2B companies can, not only develop really valuable relationships, but they can really massively grow brand awareness, they can increase reach, and they can really cultivate that trust both on and offline as well. And, there are other industries really finding success with influence marketing as well, aside from B2B, which is things like, health, so the NHS, education, travel companies that are going to need influence marketing, I think, more than ever, actually coming out of this pandemic. And also, even politics. We've seen kind of the track and trace campaign recently and how they use influencers for the first time as well. So, it really is for all companies. And my fourth point is about contributing to the online conversation. So brands aren't just using influence marketing to increase reach and to increase sales as well. They're actually working with influencers to really shape and communicate their own company values and brand voice as well. So by amplifying the voices of those whose values they really share, brands have been able to really participate in a lot of conversations that have gone online this year. And at a time when, pivoting into the digital marketplace seemed potentially rife with potential issues, influencers have really allowed brands to take a much more human approach and to, make connections rather than just make these blanket statements. And my fifth and final point is about driving sales and not just driving likes. So, influence marketing is reported to be the #1 fastest growing customer acquisition method. Technology is constantly improving to allow brands to go beyond just tracking kind of acquisition and to understand how influencers really, really drive sales. So at Tagger, for example, what we're doing is looking at attribution modeling, where we can pull back sales data from e-commerce sites to really, e-commerce sites generated by influencer marketing campaigns and investigating offline sales as well, metrics to understand brand lift studies that use influencer marketing strategies as well. So we can now see exactly what value influencers are driving and what ROI they're getting for their brands from influencer marketing campaigns. So those are kind of the 5 key trends that we've seen emerging out of 2020 that I have no doubt are going to grow into next year as well. So that's it. I think I'm under my 5 minutes.
Hannah, perfect timing. So lots of questions. And do you know what? I'm going to put this one to you because I'd love to hear your answer.
Okay.
It's from Andrew, and he says, all our consumer research, FMCG, indicates influencer marketing does not positively impact on their purchase decision. So what's your response to that?
My response is that actually, as a consumer of influence marketing, so it's interesting actually, I've been in influence marketing for 2.5 years now. And the reason I got into it wasn't because I'd heard all of the metrics and kind of, opinion pieces on it. It was purely because as a consumer, I know I buy from influencers. I know my friends and family buy from influencers as well. So I would completely disagree with that comment.
Excellent response.
I guess I would.
Great response. OK, there's a question here from Jad Wigger I quite like. She says, or he says, lovely to hear you include B2B in this, but how much budget do you really need to get going? I'm at quite a small startup.
Yeah, I don't think that, that's really one of the benefits of influence marketing, that you don't need these really huge budgets, to get going and to really influence campaigns. I mean, it's not a medium where you need huge budgets. I think that's why what we've seen during this pandemic actually is a lot of brands are coming and using influencer marketing as an alternative medium to kind of TV executions, or where they've maybe not been able to go to out-of-home events or do these out-of-home executions. And they're much more kind of cost-effective, influence marketing is a much more cost-effective medium, essentially. Okay. So if you do want to talk more about that, I'm happy to talk offline. Of course.
Fantastic. One here from Philip, who says, going back to the earlier presentation, what are your views on using your own staff or customers as an influencer and developing them?
Well, actually, in EMEA, it's only me. So I would, given that how much I've hated being on camera today, I probably wouldn't be the best person to be influencing anyone, in all fairness. But I think it's a really good idea. I mean, why not? I think what's come out of 2020 is much more creativity. And I think let's give it a go and see what happens.
Fantastic. From Stephen, who says, I know this was covered earlier, but what are your views on the often controversial place of influencer marketing in our sector? I guess he means it's often sort of sometimes attacked and, there's fake influencers, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And that's unfortunately, I think that's bound to happen. I think the industry as a whole is getting much better, though, at clamping down on that, because everyone in the industry wants it to be much more cleaned up, much more premium. And I really do think that's happening. I think there's some fantastic companies out there, Takumi. I could be here all day naming super premium companies, actually, that are really clearing up the space and doing some great things. So I completely understand people's reservations. Again, when I first got into influencer marketing, I had my own reservations, having come from a more traditional digital kind of background. But, like I said, people are doing great things to really clean up the space.
What are your reservations out of interest when you came into the space? What were you worried about?
Yeah, I think somebody said to me when I first kind of toyed with the notion of getting into influence marketing was that a lot of the onus was on influencers. A lot of the focus was on influencers, and brands were kind of being left behind and didn't really have a voice. And as somebody that really prides himself on really pushing customer service for brands, and that's what I've always done in my career, I really worried about that. But I've not found that to be the case. Again, I've found that brands are really on board with influence marketing. I feel if they're executing campaigns right, then it can be beneficial for both sides. It's not, the focus isn't just on the influence anymore. It really is on brands executing these really great and effective campaigns.
Fantastic. One here from Aveline, who asks, is influencer marketing always global, or is local as important in brands' strategies using this medium?
Yeah, I think it's like anything. I've always worked globally, but I absolutely value the importance of local kind of executions as well, because one of the things I love about working internationally is how niche and how different the various markets are. So what works in one market wouldn't work in another. And even right down to a local level as well, what's working maybe up north wouldn't necessarily resonate with people down south. People talk about the north-south divide. There are different ways in which people consume media, and that is, that's one of the things I love about the industry, is that it's not just a blanket kind of one size fits all. So I think the same has to be applied to influence marketing.
Fantastic. There's one here from Agnes, and she asks, what big changes have you seen in influencer marketing during the pandemic?
Yeah, I think it's actually that we've never been so busy. So I think exactly like I said before, like a lot of companies that ordinarily would have done big out-of-home executions or done, sponsored events, etc., haven't been able to go down that route. So they really use this time to dip their toe into the influencer space, and they found out it's worked really well for them. Just because there's nothing like influencer marketing when it comes to having that engaged audience, because we've chosen ultimately to engage with those influencers, and at any minute we could be really brutal and unfollow them. So I think that's been the key thing for me, is just how busy the space has been. And I think somebody said at the beginning of this pandemic that it was actually a really exciting year for influence marketing, and it really has been. I completely second that, and I think it's only going to grow and grow into next year and the years beyond as well. It's definitely here to stay.
Fantastic. Good to hear, Hannah. Thank you so much for your time.